Hey everybody, this is William Green and welcome to My Green Pets. And today we're just going to do a little orchid update and see what plants are in bloom and which spikes are coming on. But before we do that, I wanted to mention that next week, October 6th, I'm going to be having a live chat session with an AOS judge, Stephen Van Campen Lewis. He lives in Austin, Texas, and we're going to be talking about what it takes to be a AOS judge. And we're also going to talk about some of his favorite varieties of orchids, which are the catasetums and the cattleyas. So please stay tuned for that next week, Saturday, October 6th. As far as my own orchids, my green pets, I'm really looking forward to this Paphiopedilum Michael Kopowitz pushing up a spike quickly now. Last time it bloomed was 3 years ago, and so it's been working on this for a long time. Going to be exciting. Right next to it is this Prime Child, and this guy won an award a couple years ago, and it hasn't bloomed since then, so you can see it's pushing up that bud now. Really excited to see what this bloom looks like. Next to it, Bobo Filum antinifrum sending up a single flower, and it'll probably need a couple more weeks to grow, but those are always so nice and delicate when they bloom. And we haven't looked at Lovely Elizabeth for a while. This is another Bobo Filum, and it is pushing out something out of this bulb that looks like it looks like something, but because it's so big and fat, I think that is actually a new growth. I could be wrong, but if you look on the other side of the plant and look very closely at the base of those pseudobulbs, you can see kind of a much smaller little white piece of new growth coming out, and that to me strikes me much more as potentially being a spike. The spikes tend to come out a little bit more upright and grow straight up, and you can see there's one kind of breaking out of the sheath here. So that's great. We're going to be looking forward to some flowers on that in the next couple months. Another Bobo Filum, this is Bobo Filum medusae, and it's got several spikes on it. I think it's got 5 or 6 on it, which isn't bad considering this plant was torn into 13 pieces earlier this year. And some of the bulbs actually have 2 spikes coming on, and I'm really going to attribute that to the quantity of sunlight that this plant is getting, and I think that it's supporting it and being able to put out more spikes. So that's going to be exciting when it blooms. Just here, I think it's interesting to look at the difference. You can see really clearly the difference between a new growth and a spike. See how the growth kind of snakes along there on the right, where the new spike on the left grows more upright? It's sometimes hard to tell with Bobo Filums, the spikes and the growths. This is Falchi Loriana, my species fowl, and it's got a lovely little spike pushing out there quite early. Last year, I think the spike didn't start pushing out until December or so. So once again, perhaps it's the amount of light, or perhaps it's the cool nights that we experience here in Colorado that spurred it into spiking. Right over next to that, we have Hal the Bobo Filum echinolabium, and it's putting out its first flower on this new spike. It started growing this spike soon after we moved out to Colorado, and I'm looking forward to seeing the flower. It looks like it's got a really nice rich red color, so we're going to see. And you can see that there's actually a second bud pushing out there at the top, so Hal looks good. In addition to the bud, it looks like that there's a new growth coming up, and I'm actually more relieved to see the growth than I am to see the flower, because it hasn't put out any new growth in quite some time, about a year actually. Let's browse over all my little Cattleya seedlings. These are Cattleya rex, and these are kind of seasonal plants, so we're kind of going into the winter season right now. I'm not expecting the plants to be doing anything the next few months, possibly until January or early February. We might see some root growth, and we are seeing quite a bit of root growth right now, but in terms of vegetative growth, I don't expect to see any pseudobulbs pushing out, anything like that. I just kind of expect them to be sitting there, absorbing light for the coming growing season, and hopefully we'll see some blooms next year. Well guys, that's about it for this week. Thanks for stopping by. Just wanted to remind you one more time that next week, October 6th, is the interview with the American Orchid Society Judge Stephen Van Campen Lewis. And the times for that's going to be 10 o'clock in LA, 1 o'clock p.m. in New York, 6 p.m. in London, 22:30 in New Delhi, 2 o'clock in the morning in Tokyo, and 4 o'clock in the morning for Sydney. Sorry guys, but that just is how the times worked out this time. If you're not able to make it, you can still watch the recording, but we're looking forward to having several people there for the live chat. So until then, I'm William Green. These are my green pets, and thank you for stopping by. See ya.